correct.
Uh,
Well, it's
I was gonna
almost
say,
a
I wanted to
$30,000
look out there and find
savings.
out why these guys weren't falling over in the aisles, having a heart attack.
I was getting some hard looks over there,
So
but
we're talking about a $29,000
savings.
savings
Over
from the
last
last
year.
time we did the
Over our
contract.
previous
Over a
contract.
3-year period.
But is that,
Okay.
is
No,
that
that's for 1 year.
excluding the parks?
Nope, that's including.
That's
Okay,
fine.
so even though we broke the
Even though
contract
we broke
apart,
it out, that's correct.
when we look at the bids coming in, the combined bids, at least with the recommended approach, it comes to a savings of, what did you say?
A little over 29,000.
And that's for 1 year,
30?
1 year.
Each year of
Each
a
year.
3-year contract.
29 per year, 29 for all 3 years.
No.
Yeah.
29 per year.
Per
She's
year.
saying per
So that's
year.
57, 60,000, no, more than that, $87,000. So it is a appreciable number.
So
Is-
you're recommending that we bid everything except for the tree trimming, tree maintenance, and arborist services to Mainscapes, and the tree services go to Anchor Tree.
Yes, ma'am.
Was there any discussion with the contractor? In fact, he's here, probably going to ask him. We have the Stony Brook Commons, seems to be a big differential with the other 2 bidders that are on the sheet. Was there an unbalancing, or is that a statement of fact, or what's the, that seems to be significant for the differential?
All of the bidders were invited to come out. I gave them all a tour of the property and showed them all of the main areas to be maintained.
Well, I was
Everyone
given-
had an equal opportunity to view the areas that were to be maintained.
I was trying to give them the opportunity to say that they made a mistake. I take it that there was no mistake made, and that's just the number.
They stood by their bids.
Okey-doke. Thank you.
Ms. Flaherty?
Thank you. In the contract, Mike, is there, I can't remember, is there a part that they have to give us a date of once things have to be repaired by? Like with the irrigation, is there in the contract so that if it's broken today, it has to be fixed by March 13th?
Do we put that in
I thought we did. I wanted to make sure.
there?
it
I'm
was-
pretty sure we did, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that it was still in there. Thank you.
Are these,
That was one of the recommendations you had made, and
Right.
we'd put something in there to add surety that they would perform as
Since-
requested.
are these monthly wet checks? We doing a monthly wet check
Yes.
with our contract? So then there should be no reason why any repairs shouldn't be done monthly.
Correct.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Mike or L, in the contract related to our recreational fields, if there's field damage and there's, let's say, something needs to be replaced or fixed, is that part of the contract? Or let's say if there's a small section of sod that needs to be replaced, is there a threshold within our in that maintenance contract, or is that materials on our side?
That would depend on the reason that the sod declined. If it was due to failure on the contractor's part to maintain it properly, it would be the contractor's obligation to replace that. If it is from situations outside of their control, then it would be outside the contractual obligation.
Who's representing Mainscape today?
Jared?
Can I have someone,
Don't say anything nasty about it.
They're all here.
I would say.
And if
we-
you
we
could
have
add, they
people numbers,
outnumber us.
but, so I'd like to know from Mainscape, if you're maintaining our recreational field, how do we get to a point where staff recommends potentially closing fields down prior to league start? How do we get in a position where those fields, and before you leave, I'd like for you all to take a walk over there and see the condition of those fields. If you're professionals and you have knowledge within that space, how do we let that field get into a situation where it is today? And I don't want to hear that it's excessive use, because we've had the same level of use on those fields for the past 10 years. So there has to be something else.
No, we've increased the level of use out there.
since when?
And when was the last time we let the fields rest? The fields need, soccer fields and golf courses, Bermuda turf needs periods of rest at least once every year.
So you can tell, the past 3 years, what's changed this year as opposed to the last even 3 years? The league numbers have been the same, the rest time has been the same. So what excessive use?
There've been people going out on the fields and playing on the weekend. That-
Unscheduled, adult league play.
We inspected the fields
For-
actually with Main
for how
Street.
long? How long do we know about it?
We looked at the fields before I asked them to close the fields. We had looked at them 2 weeks prior to the damage that occurred to the field. And the fields were beautiful. We were actually looking at using product and doing side-by-side comparison to try to improve the field. We went out there, everything looked great. I mean, staff, Eddie and Freddie and company came out there. I mean,
Kathy was with us.
Miss Flaherty was with us. I mean, the fields look great. 2 weeks later, the fields, it's not from anything that they've been doing, it's from excessive, people who've been out there on the weekends using the field.
In concentrated areas. It's not the whole field, it's just certain spots of it. Goalie area.
And it wasn't nematodes,
No.
because nematodes will destroy the Bermuda.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about field 4.
Yes.
I'm just.
You're not?
No, I'm talking about just total condition of the fields, period. I think they've been deteriorating for some time. But if staff is saying that it's because of weekend use and we have excessive play that's going on this fields enough to shut them down, then okay, that's a whole nother issue. And then what I'd also like to see as we move forward is when there is damage on the fields, we're not filling holes with sand on our fields. I don't know how a landscaping company would recommend to put sand in a hole on a sports complex. I don't
Has to be
understand.
fertilizer.
Freddie, do you wanna?
If you allow me, I will try to give you some explanation. I've been managing those fields for 8 years. There are
Excuse me,
big
sir,
difference.
sir, for the record, if you could state your name and your
Freddie.
affiliation, please.
Freddie Verges, sorry,
No, no
from
problem.
Mainscape.
Thank you.
Okay, those fields will build in different stages, in 2 stages. Fields 1, 2, and 3 was the first stage, and was built over the material that they dig it out from the lakes. That make a really solid basic soil. Field 4 and 5 was built, it was the second stage, and was built with material that they brought up. This material is more sandy than the previous one. That's why you see the huge difference between field 1, 2, and 3, and field 4 and 5. This is number 1. Number 2, field 1, 2, and 3 is used for young players. For field and 4 and 5 are using for older players. Means more damage, more aggressive player, more heavy, more damage. Number 3, before we took care of the property, the previous company used what normally they do when the grass, the top area is damaged. They just put sand. They just put sand on the top during the season, and then they close the field in the summertime and result. This practice but been doing year over year, and what happened is they built a lot of sandy surface on field 4 and 5. This created perfect condition for the nematodes because it's very sandy, but also create the issue that the irrigation the soil are not able to hold all the irrigation that is over there. That means that those fields always, the turf is in stress. Doesn't matter what part of the season, if you have a long play is part of the condition, actual condition of the fields. Okay? So we are trying different things, try to improve it. and we have been successful. The last thing that we are doing is every time that we replace sod, we added compost soil. We instead just go over there and remove the sod. We dig it up like 6 inches and put it a good soil. In that way, the sod have something to hold the root and grow root. Because easily you can have 6 inches of just sand over there. There is no way that the grass can hold this heavy use that they have it.
Thank you, Freddie.
This
Thank
is the reality of the field. If you walk the fields, for example, you go on number 2, yes, you are gonna find areas that doesn't have sod. It's the area that they play. They don't move it. They play, they practice in the same area, and then they damage the same area. Okay? They are,
Okay, yep, thank you.
Thank you, Freddie. Thank you very much. So, does anyone want to make a motion regarding these bids?
No. May I also ask Mike another question,
Yes.
please? Okay. You did say to me that after we could also go out to bid again on landscaping after a year?
The contract is for a year.
Yes, okay. That's what.
What's the thing, what, 1-year option, is that it? At the discretion of the district, district has the ability to either renew or to go out to bid, is that correct?
Okay, thank you. And could I make a request that we take each one separately?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you want to start with the motion on the first one?
No.
You wanted to do them separately. You make the motions.
Okay, I'll make the motion that for the bid opening for the tree maintenance and arborist service, that we go with Anchor Tree.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
You're on a
You're
roll.
still up.
Oh. Okay, for Bahia and mixed turf area maintenance, I go with Mainscape. I motion that we go with Mainscape. It is the lowest bid by
Second.
half the price.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Keep going.
Thanks. With the exterior landscaping maintenance, I also make a motion to go with Mainscape. It is the lowest bid.
Second.
I guess for the record, it's the lowest, most responsive bid. or
Whatever.
proposal.
I
That's
need-
what she meant.
Thank you very
That's
much.
whatever. Okay.
Thank you.
I second what she said.
Would I-
And what she
you
thought.
meant to say? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? One more.
Tree maintenance and arbor
Yeah,
services.
we did that one
I
already.
said it was first.
This
That was
is
first. This is the.
Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I would like someone else to make this bid.
this motion.
Yes, please.
Or which one?
On the, again, Mainscape and Superior, I just have a problem with this one.
Again, recommendation of staff.
Staff recommends Mainscape for the Parks and Rec areas.
And this is exhibits A, B, and C.
Correct.
I'll make that motion that we award to Mainscape for exhibits A, B, and C of the Parks and Recreation areas.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Me, aye.
Okay. That moves us to conveyance and turnover of Prado Utilities.
Marta, one question on this one.
I
What's
do
the
have-
effective date, Mike, on these contracts?
As soon as we have
March,
What
Sign
we
the
need,
paperwork.
no, what we need to do first is issue a notice of award to all the bidders. Then If the bidder, hold it for a period of time to see if anybody files a notice of intent to protest. If they don't, then sign the contract.
Okay.
And if they do, then
Follow
we'll.
up with you.
I'm
Okay.
sorry?
I said I'll follow up with you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, conveyance and turnover of Prado
Make sure we don't get
Utilities.
Move approval.
I have a motion to approve this. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, conveyance and turnover of Prado drainage and roads.
So moved.
Second.
I have a question.
Arm wrestle.
Question.
Yeah. Is this the one that was requested to be out?
He actually,
It's
he
been that was
rescinded that
changed.
request.
Okay.
He came to me and said he rescinded that request.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Sorry, David. You sat here all this time.
Thanks, David.
Oh, P-PAC report.
One of these days, we'll move you back up to the top of the list.
And then beat you up.
P-PAC report, it doesn't look like we have P-PAC. Oh, I'm sorry.
We don't really have anything.
I didn't see
I
anything on it.
apologize, I didn't realize you were here with
We don't really
P-PAC.
have anything. Our-
Okay.
Our concern was Prado where we agreed with accepting it.
Thank you. That brings us to supervisor comments, and I know you said that you probably needed to be running, so I'll let you go first.
Yeah, and I've got a few minutes. So Chris, we'll get together. I've got some time next week to follow up on the Servo meeting. There's some things we want to do there. I'm trying to think, there was something else. I can't remember. I'm sure when Ed starts talking, I'll remember.
I'll take that as
I'm in that in a
I'll
very
take that as
positive
I'll take that as a compliment.
In a brotherly way, in a sibling rivalry sort of way.
Yeah, I know what that's like, so. Want me to jar his memory then?
Yeah, go ahead.
I've got two items. The first one is, Tyler, I'm going to need you. Storm sewer cleaning. It's my understanding that Tetra Tech has taken the information that I had and is putting together the paperwork to proceed toward the cleaning of the storm sewers and catch basins in Gateway Greens. On my preliminary estimate, I was coming up with somewhere in the neighborhood of around 400,000 plus. I don't know what, did you have a final number or a preliminary pre-bid estimate?
I was checking with Stephen before we went here, and if you include all the head walls, all the pipe, and I think there was one section that, I don't know if it wasn't in yours because it was not part of.
Hidden Links is part of Gateway Greens.
Hidden Links is, I think
Yes.
all in, it was like right around 600,000.
600,000.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The issue is how do we do this? When we were doing the budget last year, as I recall, we had $165,000 budgeted for the storm sewer cleaning. Some of that money may have been spent for, I don't know what, I don't know what we have left at this point in time. Steve, do you have an idea what the ballpark of that 165,000 line item was?
I'm looking that up right now for you.
My question is, what do we need to do to transfer funds over to make up that differential? And if we, let's say it's for arguing, it's 150 and yours 650, that means we need to transfer $450,000 from some other source. We have we have over 500,000, no, it's closer to 700,000 in the building, as I understand, that was budgeted.
We have, yes, but we have that, it's in two different funds. The general fund, capital improvement fund has about 165,000. And then the utility fund has the larger piece of that number is.
So is there any reason of a prohibition that prevents the utility fund transfer over to the general fund to allow and facilitate the storm sewer?
No, I would not recommend you do that. If you do have sufficient funds in the general fund, you want to use that. You do not have to take anything. from the utility
Above
fund.
and beyond the 165?
You have, let me actually switch the
I
page.
was gonna say, is there something we can look at? Where are you,
Yeah, let me just.
where are you
switch the
finding
page.
that excess money at?
Here we go, let's take a look at your. So we keep this reserve schedule in your financials. It's kind of a rolling type schedule that we like to keep. And basically, it shows where you start at the beginning of the year, what you spent year to date, what you're gonna be transferring into this fund, and where we project the ending balance gonna be based on spending everything that's in your budget. So right now, at the end of the year, because you're not doing anything with the building, you have about $728,000 that could be assigned to this project in the general fund for the board.
Does that 728 include the 165 that I alluded to earlier?
The 165, and I'm not, the only 165 I see on this schedule is the office building.
We had a line item that we added to the budget at my request when we were doing the budgeting for storm sewer rehabilitation, 165. And where you find it in that thing is beyond me, but I remember the number. We had that approved. That was one of the last items that we brought up when we were doing the budget last year. We added that in.
I thought it was on that one that just passed.
Just go by the.
I'm sorry.
I saw something with sewer.
It goes too fast for me.
I always hit find and type in the word.
Here we go, here's your stormwater.
There you go.
124, that's the general fund operating. So again, you can certainly use this if you only spent so far through January, $1,200. So that line item is still there.
Well, I guess I'll bring it up for board discussion.
Careful.
Do we phase this thing, or wait a minute, which comes first, chicken or the egg? Do we bid it first to find out the correctness of our estimate, and then move to transfer the funds to make up? Or do we try to cut the baby in half and say that we go half this year and half next year and only transfer 300,000?
I think
At this
until
point in
we
time.
know- I think until we have some solid numbers, we can't make a decision of whether we need to phase it or if we really
Well,
rationally
I agree
can
with that, but the
transfer
problem is
money.
if we bid it for the whole thing, and then I guess we could bid it and award it in phases if it's a money issue. That's typically, if lack of funds.
Correct, we can say it's subject to an annual
Subject-
appropriation. We can do that or phase it.
So, I mean, I don't know if you directly asked for my opinion, but you could,
Yes.
I mean, you can bid it, and, I mean, I don't even know if you'd really get all that work done between now and October,
Yeah.
even if you tried to.
Anyway.
I think that's,
Yeah.
big piece since you're 6 months in right now.
So, I mean.
Could you bid it in two phases and then sequence based on whatever?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then if we're back to, we believe because this is how we did Stony Brook and Silver Lake, we did them based on estimates. We could take then and say that we would delineate out 50%, 300,000 plus or minus for this year, bid it, and then do the remaining deal next year.
You can certainly budget for it, and we'll be starting that in a couple weeks.
Okay, well then, for next year.
Yeah.
It's
But
pretty
my
simple
point is,
for-
can we get, and I think you've answered the question, we can get 300,000 out of the budget to do this year's first 50%.
You have funds available should the board.
Okay, then,
I think I'd like to have that, I'd like the analysis to be made. I'd like to know exactly how much we're talking about, because we're talking,
well, if.
Guesstimate
If we're
here.
gonna do this, if we're gonna do that, then what I would hold till the next meeting, receiving pending receipt from Tyler, you cut the baby, because I know whose ox is gonna get gored on this in my community. I could see that, I could write the headlines on the Sun right now. You cut the baby into the two components to make up 300,000 estimate of both. Bring the presentation along with the identification of the areas that are going. And I think we agreed that if you're gonna do an area, you do everything that's in that area. So if you have a pipe that goes into the lake, every pipe that feeds to that pipe going into the lake is all inclusive. It'd be half you know what if you do it the other way. It'd be ridiculous.
Don't you
So-
think don't you think we ought to have a report of some sort of
what other projects
We-
are
we- we-
important for us to consider?
We
First.
did, Bill.
We did,
It's called,
tell me.
it's called the ramifications of the August storm and the Irma and the flooding.
I think what Bill's saying is we need to have this formally presented.
Right.
Well, I don't have any
Staff needs
problem-
to
I don't have
make
any
its
problem with that.
Just so we have some more background on.
What I would suggest then is let Tyler bring in the breakdown of the Gateway Greens items of work. And again, we're delineating it just like we did at Silver Lake and Stony Brook, 20% or greater blockage. And then make the split at that meeting based upon recommendation at what's going to be done this year, what's going to be done next year as far as the cleaning of those sewers.
I know you represent Gateway Greens, and I appreciate that, and I acknowledge that, but there are other neighborhoods that we need to be considered.
And Bill, I said that when we did Silver Lakes and Stony Brook, and nobody said a word. That's amazing. And we have 3 members of the board from one of those that have
But
benefited.
not when you did that.
It's never too late to do the right thing.
The point is that
Gateway
the-
Greens is the oldest.
it's the oldest community of any, and we have serious blockage in there as we saw. Now,
But when the guy from Gateway Sun writes, we need to have
If-
all those answers.
if you,
for
if,
him.
if you haven't got tough skin to take what he puts in that blog, then you're in the wrong place.
What you need
I-
to do is
Yeah.
not read it.
I've taken it
It's
longer
off
than
me
you
like
have
it's
been.
off a
So
duck's
what
back.
you need to
Look,
do
this-
is not read it.
But the issue is, I have no problem of deferring it to the next meeting such that Tyler can bring in the estimate for the entirety, along with the recommendation for the split, such that we can immediately then go to bid. Because
Well, and I
while the weather is, this is the time to be cleaning these sewers for one reason. You're not dealing with volumes and volumes and volumes of water.
And I agree with you on that, but I think we need to also bring in staff on this so that we get a staff recommendation on what should be done, how much should be done in the area. Maybe we want to cut it into thirds instead of halves.
If staff wants to go through the, what was it, 2014, 2015 cut sheets and all that, I'm more than happy to do it. It took me months to put all that together.
I understand, but.
And
I
it's
mean,
real easy. We already made the call and have established how we're doing it. It's 20% and greater, and that's all we've done here.
And I understand what you're saying. It's that when we started this project, we didn't have a district manager that was on staff, so all these projects really, he needs to be.
But
he
the
needs
issue,
be in charge
to
of
follow
it.
up on what Bill said, and I've talked to Tyler about it, we have 2 other communities, Timber Ridge and Daniels Preserve, that have, I'm gonna say, 5, 6, maybe 7 manhole-to-manhole segments of 48-inch and 60-inch pipe that are 90% clogged.
You gotta be kidding.
I am not kidding. I am not kidding. Those need to be taken care of also. Keep in mind, we've kicked this can down the road for 20-some years. We've done nothing. This has got to be addressed, and I don't want to spend any more money than anybody else does. I have to pay for it. But the issue is, we had significant flooding before Irma came. This tells you why. You guys had the same thing in Stony Brook, and Silver Lake had the same issue. We agreed, I agreed, that those would be the first, but it was on the stipulation that these older communities would be next, and that's where we're at.
And I agree with you on that. I mean, I don't have any problem with it being the older communities next. I just think we need to get staff involvement on how we phase this and how we pay
I
for
would,
it.
And let me just make
I would
a-
love to have Tyler take, because he's got, from what I understand, Stephen is essentially done with his stuff. He can turn it over to staff, and staff's got 2 weeks to get their input ready for that next meeting.
That works.
Let me just make a quick recommendation. When we recommend something be brought back for board approval, the process we should go through is this on the 2018 plan? If that's a no, then do we have funding that's readily available for this? If that's a yes, then we vote to approve.
Or not.
Or not, right, vote to approve or not. If priority is a no, funding is a no, then we have to discuss prioritization, and is that more important because of severity or something else to bump something else off the list? And that's why the appropriate action is to direct staff to work with engineers to bring it back and to say those things. Hey, this is an item that we need to consider. It's not on the 2018 priorities. However, for these reasons, it needs to be considered. There's funding available, and then we proceed from there. And that way, we don't have to have this discussion.
That can be done at our next meeting.
Yep.
And I know that I had requested when items come to us for approval, that we actually know where that funding is coming from. That we
Yes.
know what budgets the money's coming from, how much is left, and how much this is going to
Stephen,
use up.
Stephen, in anticipation of that, can you send to Mike and Chris where you would recommend, you don't have to do it for next year because we're going to do it in the budget. The only thing you've got to come up with this year is if 300 is the magic number and we've got 124, you need another 76 or 60,
Well, that's-
76.
That's if staff decides that we want to split it. I mean,
Yeah, if you want to go 50/50 or do it over 2 years, or my deal is I'd do
I
it
think
1
Mike
year, but.
needs to hop
I
in here.
did also want to bring to the board's attention, I have been receiving lots of phone calls from residents in several subdivisions about catch basins full of debris. So it's really district-wide. So I just want to
Agreed.
bring that to your attention.
This is the first I'm hearing about some pipes 90% clogged. That's a concern.
So anyway, would be my recommendation for the next meeting.
Okay.
The
So-
next one is Hampton Park. We have been told that WCI Lennar has requested of Lee County a 60-day time extension to get their work done for turnover. The Lee County Code Enforcement is going to be coming out and doing an inspection, and I think we need to figure out what participation level we're going to have in that, they're protecting us. We called them in to get us out of this mess that they approved initially. To what extent do we meet with them and go around when they do that next inspection to verify that the things that we'd asked for to cover our backside have been done?
Okay.
So we need to be talking about that.
I'll turn that over to staff also.
And then the last one is that this is beyond anything that has to do with the turnover. We have a weir over in Hampton Park, Weir 1, which is in Pond 3, which controls essentially 85-90% of Hampton Park. There is no reason why we can't proceed at this point in time and authorize Tetra Tech to start the process of working with South Florida Water Management District to make that an adjustable weir before the summer rains come and we have what happened last year.
I thought we already did that.
No, we haven't done that. We haven't done that.
We'll take that in.
My recommendation would be that we have Tetra Tech report back to staff a proposal to do a analysis of an adjustable weir at Pond 1, or Pond 3, Control Level 1 in Hampton Park. There is no benefit to doing the other weir because the elevation that it discharges into is the same as we have. So it doesn't help anything at all. But the main weir has got a 2-foot, assuming we get the elevations that we talked about earlier, Bill, assuming that we get those verified that they are correct, and we believe they are, then we have 2 feet to play with, which is,
That's an enormous.
it's an enormous amount of water that we're setting there and having people's streets and things back up when we don't need but half of that. So if we could cut that weir down and make it adjustable, we could control the flow and control the flooding in Hampton Park. So what happened last year wouldn't happen again.
The only thing, if it's okay, if I can just add something to that real quick.
Yes, please.
So we've been talking about this whole adjustable weir thing, which is, of all the projects you're doing, that one's a pretty good idea, I think, personally. The only thing I'll add is, you've got adjustable weirs, and there's one in Gateway Greens now, there's 2 actually, I guess. You're gonna put one in Hampton. If you're gonna look into adjustable weirs, which by all means I support, we need to look at doing them downstream of where that water is going to go in Pelican
of them.
I
also.
All of them.
100% totally
One
agree. But this one can stand on its own because of the elevations that we had. What happened is we screwed up. We fell asleep at the switch. When they came in, they being WCI, and put in that 60-inch pipe and took it the other direction, we should have said right then, you're dropping this thing down 2 feet. We don't need that 2 feet. Change and make it an adjustable weir at that time. We didn't do it. We didn't do it. We probably don't want to do anything until we take this thing over. But we're not going to go down to South Florida and do this overnight. It's going to take some negotiation to meet with them.
They're okay with it.
I think they're okay with it, yes, I agree.
It's just, you got to provide a lot of supporting documentation on how you're not going to burden the downstream impacts and stuff
But
like
Tyler, the problem, and I totally agree with that, the problem we have, and this is why I was on this earlier, we don't know that those downstream weirs are at the right elevation. We do know one thing. Weir 3, which is the one that controls everything coming out of Hampton Park through control elevation 1, was built at supposedly 25-foot width. You got there and measured, it's 20 feet.
Well, and that's
It's
part
20
of-
feet, so we need to know, was it built correctly, which would then allow us to go back and, with safety, know that we can handle it. But the same thing applies for your bill down in your neck of the woods. Weir 2. If that weir could be lowered 1 foot, can you imagine the amount of safety that we just put in for all of those people down there in that lower zone? And it's
That's right,
minimal
but you-
cost.
You've got to be careful because the water that keeps rolling down through the slough can be higher than what that
That's-
is. and it
that-
backs
that-
down. So you've
that's a
gotta have-
backwater curve.
You've got, yeah,
We've got it-
you may
we-
have to have a one-way valve. or
We,
something.
what we got to do is, those are just hydraulic calculations that have to be done. But at this point in time, I'm only asking for, let's get Hampton Park going.
We got to get
such-
started.
Yeah.
yeah.
We got to get started.
Well, I think unless we're looking at the entire system and we can justify what we're asking in one area because of how it will or won't affect other areas, I think we've got to look at this in
Well,
totality.
I understand that, but the cost differential to do Hampton Park and their adjustable weir, the level of effort engineering-wise to convince South Florida is minimal compared to the hydraulic analysis they're going to want for the whole model. Totally different.
I did figure out what I needed.
So I'd ask that Tyler put together a price proposal to do the Hampton Park only, get that to staff for review prior to that next meeting also.
It may not be on the very next meeting. We'll see what the agenda is packed with.
I don't, Margaret, this doesn't take any time. It doesn't take any time at all. This is minimal, this is peanut stuff.
So-
And I think everybody agrees that is the flexibility we need over there. I don't want to face those Hampton Park residents and have the mess that we had another summer when we could have fixed it so simply. It's an easy engineering fix.
So
Easy.
you're just asking him for a scope of work.
And coordinate with staff and then present and for discussion at the next meeting.
So we'll get a scope for the meeting on the 15th for the Hampton Park adjustable weir
Yeah.
and Gateway.
I'm just gonna ask this question before we send him in that direction. Is that what we wanna do, or do we wanna look more at,
All the weirs,
all the weirs?
all the weirs.
Well, you can't do all, I don't know how many times I'm gonna say this, you can't do all the weirs until you get the elevations. And you're gonna be putting that down. The math, believe me, the math to do this one is simple, very simple. The math to do the other weirs, which granted needs to be done, I've been harping about it for a long time, is complicated. And as Bill well knows, tree line is an obstruction. I-75 is an obstruction. We might be able to take and fix those adjustable weirs and send that water down there lickety-split. But when it hits that box culvert
So it
at
hits
tree
the-
line,
so it hits tree line.
if it can't pass it, we didn't accomplish anything, because what it's gonna do is back up. It's gonna be a restriction. So we gotta know the answers to those questions. Much more complicated engineering calculations than the Hampton Park, much more.
Yeah, so real quick, so today on the way here, I got like several texts and emails about another car crash, and this is for Mike, actually. Another accident on Commerce Lakes and Gateway Boulevard. And evidently it's the second one this week, and it continues to be an issue. Like
Oh, I'm sorry.
Commerce Lake and Gateway Boulevard.
I
Yes.
saw it coming in too.
That's the second accident this week, and this was about, this one was, I think, around school time, so around
Is this
three.
because of
I was
trees?
on my way here.
Because of trees?
No.
No, I think it's just because of traffic and people not paying attention to what they're doing. And it's right about the time I think school lets out, so several of the texts and emails said, look, school's getting out of that time, there's a lot of things going on, but that just seems to be a problem intersection, and if, I don't know.
It's
if-
blind. It's very hard to see.
If there's something, we can just, escalate it to Lee County, I mean.
I was going to say that you, as the Board of Supervisors, actually communicate with Commissioner Pendergrass. This is his area. He's aware of it. I mean, I think Mr. Tinkle's seen the email that he sent back. They're aware that that intersection is problematic, but
Well,
for
there's not
them-
even any, like, there's no, like, on the elementary school, there's a school, don't we have school painting or something? I mean, I don't know what.
But for them to bring it up to, he has the ability to bring the priority of that project
Okay.
up. So that was going to say, so as you as politicians can apply pressure to him to elevate that to the top of the list.
Reach out to him, or have Chris do it.
He lives in his neighborhood. Let him reach out to
Talk
him.
to Cecil about that?
My fear on that one is that the response I'm going to get is that you guys owned it for all those years and didn't do a damn thing. Why are you want to do it now?
Never too late to do the
Well,
right
traffic
thing.
is different.
It's whose pot the gold is coming out of.
I hope that's not his response.
But the trends and accidents there, I was talking to Lee County DOT, they have been the last 2 years
volume.
have been just going up and up and up.
Pure volume. Yeah, I'll get with Cecil.
I do have a request for the next board meeting, and this has been being kicked down the road and kicked down the road and kicked down the road, and I'm getting more and more requests to finally settle the Pelican Preserve golf cart. And I would like, the golf cart issue, I would like to have that on the next meeting, please. And make sure that you reach out to whoever it is in Pelican Preserve and make them aware of the fact that we need to get an update on that. We need to get that settled once and for all, please.
Where does this stand right now?
The last I heard, they had gotten the last traffic study done, and we were just waiting for them to present it to us, and we have never gotten anything. So, and that's been done for a while, so.
Yeah, and what happened was I prepared a draft memorandum, we gave it to Mr. Measy. He presented that to the working group, Safety Security Working Group and PPAC, and if I get it wrong, I'll stand corrected. And then they revised their recommendations. I looked at the revised recommendations and prepared a memorandum. And I think in their agenda item, agenda page 244 under the PPAC report, the last paragraph, I think summarizes the current status. District Council has prepared a legal review of the revised proposal for actions to be taken as a result of the recent traffic study that was unanimously approved by PPAC. At its January 11th meeting, the legal review is primarily focused on the revision of the bicycle path golf cart rules. As the PPAC, SWG disagrees with some of the conclusions and suggested actions included in the legal review, a response addressing these disagreements will be included when the proposal is presented to the board. The response is now being prepared. What I would suggest is maybe a direction or communication from the manager or the chairman to PPAC, to Phil,
Yeah.
Mr. Measy, and say, please hold a PPAC meeting between now and the board meeting so that you can have a report at the March 15th board meeting. Might be appropriate.
I think it's.
And if PPAC has an issue and they're looking to address those disagreements back, shouldn't that happen before it comes to us?
I think at this point in time, I think it should come to the board, because I had the first iteration of the proposed recommendations. I made suggested draft comments. In response to that, they revised it substantially. I prepared a legal review, and I think if we do that again, it'll just keep pushing it further. I think it is appropriate for it to get before the board sooner than later.
Okay, that's my only thing. Mr. Guy.
I'm ready to move adjournment.
I think
I have 7 items. I'm sorry.
do,
Okay, Ed.
Okay.
yeah. Uh-oh.
Okay, pond repair for Lake 83. Where are we at pond repair? I did think the material out there that was supposed to be used for pond repair, isn't that why the material is out there?
Sure is.
Oh.
106 and 83 and the Stony Brook Canal, and I will be bringing the proposal for 106 and 83 to the next board meeting for the contractor.
Okay, and so that's what the material out there is for. I didn't get a chance to ask that. The other question I didn't get a chance to ask was because of the criteria from saltwater management. I did not get that, so I would like to make a request that I get that information. Okay? And littorals, I thought maybe we could look into maybe having littorals on the ponds, if
106
that's,
and 83 we're gonna do.
oh, good. Because maybe that would bring down the price. Okay.
Some of
You-
them have,
that's
some
it.
of them have requirements.
Okay.
For where we have requirements in the DO, that's fine, but that's against the policy of our design standards.
Maybe we can amend. There's always amendments
We-
available.
You bring it up at the public meeting, and then we'll be looking for a 5th board member.
So
The residents do not want any part of it.
I'm just, it's a suggestion. Okay, we'll make all suggestions. Also,
I got shot
because
once, I'm
I'm
not doing it again.
looking at the budget and things like this, we had 2 engineers. Do we pay both engineers for being at this meeting?
Sure.
Sure. Do we need 2 engineers, or could we go along with 1 engineer?
I thought that we weren't paying either one of them. I thought they came to the meetings.
They're billing every minute they're here.
I thought they weren't supposed to be doing that because our contract says
Well,
that.
their contract says that they'll attend the meetings without a charge unless they're directed by the board, and they seem to think they're directed by the board to
Okay.
attend every one of these meetings, and Danny seems to think he likes to come in too. So I'm not sure what he was here for tonight, but,
So we need to talk about.
Can we verify that?
yeah, well, I look at the invoices, that
Okay.
seems pretty, you know.
I think it's just a simple question to back to them as
Yeah.
to then, he's welcome to come, but we don't need 2. Solve that real easy.
$370 an hour.
Okay. Also, I have been approached by some people at Stony Brook about their weirs. If something is going to be done before we get flooded again during this season. So I'm
And-
just bringing that to you
As soon
too.
as we finish up 83 and 106, we're gonna move the Stony Brook Canal, because besides just the wear and some of that material, like 150 feet back, we're gonna line that conveyance. And in some cases where that thing's supposed to be about 18 feet wide, it's only 9 to 12
Yeah.
feet
Yeah.
wide.
Yeah,
And
keep-
there's
keep-
issues running all the way back in that conveyance.
Keep in mind, there's another issue too. WCI is developing that property on the other side of the road, and they're going to do away with the channel. It's gonna be piped. It's gonna be piped. We might wanna do a cost analysis of whether we wanna come out of Stony Brook and immediately go to a pipe the whole way and be
What
done
size
with it.
pipe do you think they'll do?
Now, it's 42 inches goes underneath the road right now,
Okay.
so you wanna match it.
Okay.
Yeah, those are in a sump too, and they may be jammed as much as those other pipes you referred to.
Well, I think when we got that piece of plywood out of it, it helped it a lot. You tell me how
Thank
you
God
get.
you did that before the storm.
You tell me how you get a 4x4 piece of plywood into a manhole that's got a 27-inch opening. Tell me how you do that
I'll
one.
give you a 13 and 9
Was in there
year old,
during
5-year-old,
construction.
Yes, yeah.
and I'm sure they can figure it out.
Mrs. Flaherty, I know you said 7 things. I think that was about 4.
Okay. Bill
It's flexible. There you go.
Preasy, did I say his name right? We have not had any discussion of what we're going to do with him. We really do have to, Mike asked me what's gonna go, and we need to have to move forward with what's going on with him.
What is it?
That's the
What?
landscape of
Oh, okay.
the architect, so Mr.
Or you wanna add that to your half hour on Parks and Rec?
Yes. I don't think it's nothing we can vote on tonight. You're just
Right, I
requesting
just-
that we don't lose track of it, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Okay, and my last thing is, you did say you ordered the defibrillators. Do you know when we're gonna be getting them?
I do not have a delivery date yet.
Okay.
I have
I will
the,
keep reminding you. because those are important to me.
Yes,
Thank you.
Have another meeting like tonight, we might need one.
Okay, I think I covered them all, because I typed.
Mr. Guy,
Madam Chairman, I move adjournment at 6:37.
so moved, we are adjourned.
Can we just talk about